And I guess there are two parts of this that I'd like to talk to you about. One is your reaction when the police banged on your door and you realised that something you tweeted had become a police investigation. So let's start with that. I mean, you must have been, I guess, staggered.
Absolutely, because all I was ever told by the police was the first thing they said to me was, following an appearance with Susie Green on Good Morning Britain, you made a series of, and the first thing I thought was, oh my goodness, I'm going to be interviewed over something I said on television, you know, for sort of 6 months later. They said, you made a series of tweets in which you misgendered Susie Green's daughter. And I was absolutely staggered for two reasons. Firstly, I have a tweet cleaner on my account, which automatically deletes tweets, I think, after every 2 weeks. It might be 10 days, but... So Susie Green has said I deleted the tweets as though I was ashamed of them. No, I wasn't. I just couldn't remember what they were. And secondly, I couldn't believe that I was going to be interviewed under caution for misgendering, which is not a crime. And at the same time, Surrey police were very well aware I had been the subject of a horrendous campaign of stalking and intimidation that went way above and beyond anything I had said, and they've done nothing.
And that's for other stuff.
Sure. So, yeah, no, so my reaction, I was terrified, I was shaking, I couldn't breathe, the room was spinning. I was, you know...
How many children do you have?
I have 5 children.
So you were presumably thinking the worst-case scenario is I might go to prison here and my kids won't have their mother because I have misgendered somebody.
Yeah, absolutely. And I thought they're going to try and make a test case out of this one because I know that there have been a number of other individuals who've had charges brought against them.
And Twitter has now said they will ban people if they deliberately target transgender people and deliberately misgender them.
Absolutely, and that's why I've been very careful. And the other thing I would say is I wasn't targeting Susie Green's child. And in fact, when we look at the tweets, which I know we're going to, I made those tweets 10 days after the original debate here. I didn't tag her in either.
Okay.
I wasn't tweeting at her.
However, you
I was tweeting about her.
There is a but, and this is the but.
OK, so you believed that you were being investigated for misgendering, so using the wrong gender in reference. Susie Green says the posts were malicious and not just misgendering. And under the Miscommunications Act, the Malicious Communications Act, British Act of Parliament, makes it illegal to send or deliver letters or other articles for the purpose of causing distress or anxiety, and also applies to social media. In your tweets, you say about Susie Green what she did to her own son. She mutilated him by having him castrated and rendered sterile while still a child. You say, castrating her 16-year-old son, she writes pages of cant describing her journey and reporting you to the police for hurting her feelings. I think it's time everyone called out Susie Green and Mermaids, which is the charity she represents, for what it is, child abuse. I mean, you say you didn't at them, you know, you didn't actually tag them, but you've quite clearly targeted them.
You have to remember, though, yes...
And also called on other people to do the same thing.
But I think you have to remember that this is political, not personal. So Susie Green...
It's incredibly personal.
But Susie Green...
Using the terms child abuse and castration.
But Susie Green is a public figure who runs a lobby group which has access to Westminster, which influences local education authority policy, which influences the police, which influences, you know, public policy in this country. And that the problem is, Susanna, I completely understand, if Susie Green was a private individual who, you know, was a mother of a trans child who'd done this, I would not have said a word. But the problem is Susie Green uses their child as advocacy for her lobby group's position.
Alternatively, Susie Green, who is at Mermaids, is part of that charity because of her own personal experience as the mother of a transgender child.
But this is the point. But she uses those experiences to advocate for other children, and she has made her child's journey public. So she has put her child, you know, she made a whole documentary about this.
It's true, isn't it, that she couldn't have done with her then son, now daughter, she couldn't have gone through with this legally in this country.
That's right. And Thailand were sort of so nonplussed or outraged by what had happened. Thailand then changed the law to...
so it wasn't illegal in the place where it was done.
But at the time...
So to call it illegal is not true,
well,
because it happened under
it was illegal in this country, and, you know, at the time, and it was illegal. And the other thing
you haven't made clear in
well,
your
you know,
tweet...
because tweets are, you know, a very limited forum. And actually, as well,
you can write all sorts of things in tweets. And if you want to explain, I think the problem is, and I know that the police have dropped this, but Susie Green obviously did experience distress and anxiety, and her child as well, as a result of what happened, because otherwise she wouldn't have complained to the police in the first place. There is a way, isn't there, of talking about these issues without using inflammatory language. Even if someone is a public figure, we need to treat each other with respect and dignity and compassion, actually.
No, of course there is a way of talking about things. But, you know, you can't go... I didn't say anything that is not in the public domain. You know, I didn't sort of go and find anything out and put it out there. And the thing is, yes, there is respect and compassion and dignity, but actually one of the things that Susie Green did on a BBC documentary about her child's journey was to publicly talk about her child's genitals and how they had been shrunken by all the cross-sex hormones and the puberty blockers, so there wasn't enough material to work with, making the procedure, you know, actually more dangerous and risky. And so the thing is, I was talking to my own daughter about this, and I said, how would you like it if I talked about your intimate areas on television? And she's seen laughing, so she invaded her child's own privacy and dignity.
A mother's entitled to talk about her child any way she sees fit, right? I think my overview about this is, I think the idea that to misgender somebody is a criminal offence worthy of police investigation, given all the resource issues the police have in this country, is ridiculous. So I'm very glad this has been dropped on that respect. But I agree with Susanna that the whole transgender debate is extremely fractious at the moment. Everyone on all sides gets very animated, right? And I don't think it helps the trans lobby when they get really aggressive with people. I don't think it helps the people in your position, maybe Catholics who have a particular religiously based view about these things, to go the same way themselves. There has to be a coming together and a more respectful, on both sides, way of debating what are obvious issues that have arisen from this new open world of transgenderism.
Okay. I know, and I accept that. And I'd also like to point out, my point of view is not simply Catholic. It's science and evidence-based.
Right.
But the thing is, the reason...
Which you're entitled to have.
But the thing is,
I don't think what you are entitled to do, with respect to you, is to be quite so abusive on Twitter. So my question for you is, now that it's been dropped and you don't have to face the police action, do you feel a little bit regretful about the language you use and the way you phrased it?
Absolutely not. And it's funny, yeah, and I spoke to... you know, my husband's a very good judge of character on this, and he said, no, those tweets weren't spiteful and they really weren't meant to be. The point is here is
that... But with respect, your husband, of course, is going to offer you support. But
sometimes he doesn't always. He doesn't always. But the point that I was trying to make here is that when we talk, the British public, I believe, are overwhelmingly good-natured and tolerant, OK? And this is capitalised upon when we're talking about this issue in children with, you know, dignity and compassion and respect. I agree. However, there is so much euphemism in this area. We talk about gender affirmation surgery and bottom surgery. I want to be very clear what is being advocated for children. Castration is the removal of the testes. This happens in reassignment surgery. The other thing that happens is that actually when it's done so early, it's recommended that this procedure needs to be repeated every 10 years, and it uses a section of the bowel, and eventually somebody ends up needing a new bowel. This is really dangerous. But this is 16. How can a 16-year-old, you know, this child had the operation?
Okay. Do you know what? It's sounding incredibly personal. And I think everybody agrees that you are entitled to your view. But I think what, you know, people are concerned about is if you repeatedly target an individual and call on other people to do the same and use language which is frankly insensitive, it's not going to, whether it's legal or illegal, and we understand, you know, we know the police have dropped the investigation, it is hurtful.
But the thing
and
is,
there's no need for it. You're entitled to discuss the whole issue, but don't make it so personal.
But the thing is the truth. And on this issue, we need to tell the truth. It's not about hurtful. We need to have a clear and honest and open discussion. This is what is being advocated by, for children
Caroline,
under 16.
Caroline, the bottom line is the debate we had on air between the pair of you was a lot more respectful than the one that then happened on Twitter. And I think that's my point, is that Twitter, sometimes people use it not thinking about the impact, whereas on television you may not have used some of the phrases that you used. And I just think there's a better way to have this debate than simply hurling things like child abuse, castration or whatever at people on Twitter. There's a more respectful way of doing it.
How else do I...
You do it in a more respectful way.
How do I convey the reality of what is happening?
Well,
how do I convey that?
Look, I don't think the police should be getting involved in this, but I certainly think the tone of the debate should be more respectful on both sides. On both sides. We've got to leave it there. Let's go to